Cap, I'm gonna be honest with you. I really thought you were home.
No, I'm not home.
I'm I'm sorry. I promise this isn't a bit. Like I legitimately, for some reason, thought that you were back in America. And as soon as I logged
No,
onto the video call, I see you in the same hotel room that
I'm
you've been
still
in.
stuck in this fucking hell.
Can, what?
It won't end, Joey.
Why can't you go home? Also, I'm sorry.
Well, I can't leave until the 29th, which may or may not be the actual date I leave, whether or not I get a negative test. Because I got a PCR test today and it was positive still, because you can get false positives off of COVID antibodies. And so, yeah, I have to just keep taking tests until one of them's negative.
How long have you been taking tests for? Because
Just today.
just today. Okay, today's your first one, so that
Yeah.
wasn't.
It
That
has to
wasn't
be
very
within 72 hours of me flying, so.
okay. Because now we're past the whole 10 days of you being first diagnosed, right? So you can, in theory,
It's
leave as.
14 days.
Okay, it's 14 days.
Yes. That's why I cannot leave until the 29th.
Oh boy. So basically, you're in limbo until you get a negative test, and then after you get a negative test, and the 29th passes, which right now it's already. you can go. It's just you're stuck until then. At least you got the same room.
I can leave quarantine on the 29th. In order to get on a flight to the United States, I need a negative PCR test or a negative rapid test. So I'm just going to have them give me like 5 tests tomorrow, and one of them will be negative. Because apparently the one test that you're supposed to take to determine that you have antibodies, that won't actually clear you for flying with KLM for whatever reason. So you have to have a, and again, you get false positives off of antibodies. So, you know, it's we'll just see what happens tomorrow. I'm gonna tell them and be like, hey, if you don't want me to stay here, you better keep giving me tests until you get a fucking negative, because otherwise you're paying for more hotel and changing my flight again.
Dude. Hey, can I take 12 tests, please? At that point, the math would state that one of them will be wrong or right?
Yeah, it's got to work out in my favor eventually.
Dude, that sucks. Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I've been telling people keep on asking me how I'm doing and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm like 95%, you know? I'm pretty good. I'm like physically 95% back to being quite healthy. Where we last did this podcast, I would say I was about 50, 60%. So another week has put me up almost back to completely fine. I've got a slight nasal thing going on. But the mentally, I'm like down to 15%, bro. I got to get the fuck out of here.
Is it,
I can't sit in this fucking hotel room for much longer.
what is it in particular that's causing the mental strife? Is it the fact that you're confined in like 100 square foot area? Is that the big thing, or
It's not the worst thing. It's the fact that I don't have a PC. That's actually that's the real fucking problem, is that I don't have a PC. Which I saw that that Valve slash PGL arranged for the teams who are here to get PCs and chairs. That was nice of them. Unfortunately, they couldn't find another PC for me or for JJ. They offered us laptops. I will give them credit. They offered us laptops, but what am I gonna do with another laptop? I'm like, the whole point of a full PC is that I can't do like my normal day-to-day job off of a laptop. So my laptop is literally for like emergency situations in lands, like situations like this where I'm just stuck and I can't do anything else. So at least I have a laptop, but like, you know, but they didn't have any more PCs or something. They told me they couldn't get any more PCs. They did give me a chair. there was a bit of a fight to get me a chair, but we got one in the end. So that was a big plus, because that other chair that I have, I would have actually walked away with like having to go to a chiropractor if I had to sit in that fucking chair for 14 days straight.
Why was it a fight to get you a chair? Like what's hard about just giving you a chair?
I don't know. They didn't have any more chairs.
Oh,
They, it's because PGL's got their Stockholm major and stuff, and like apparently the PCs that were here for TI needed to go back to wherever they're going. Same goes with the chairs and stuff. Like there is an end date on this stuff.
They're not gonna put the TI chairs on the PGL major.
That's just what I was told. All right, I was told the chairs needed to go back to Stream Lab, Secret Lab, whatever their name is. I was told that they go back to them. So it's maybe they just swap out the cover on the chair. I don't fucking know, Joey.
You're telling me stuff, and I'm just like constantly having more questions. How many teams are still there, and why are teams still there?
I actually, because they can't return back. So the T1 is still here because they can't get back to the Philippines, I think. This is all like just Reddit rumors, so don't take anything I say here as gospel. But I'm pretty sure that I heard that like Vici Gaming, and maybe Elephant or somebody got COVID as well. At the end of the event, I don't know if that's actually true. All I know is that there are several teams still here, and yeah. So apparently, Valve and PGL is paying for their accommodation. They setting them up with PCs and stuff like that. But yeah, I've just got my laptop with my shitty webcam that is flashing all the time.
Anybody who watches the video version of Side Poll probably loathes the fact that you are not home yet, because for anyone who's just in the car on a jog doing an audio thing, they don't know that at every episode of the Cashman TI, his camera looks like an old VCR player with tracking lines through it. So
that's a good description of it. That's pretty good. Enough about me though. My shit's this hotel room's depressing. Hawaii has got to be the opposite of depressing. Let me hear about Hawaii.
I just went on like a full week of trying to unplug, right? So I feel I guess maybe you can try and live vicariously, but ultimately very, very different weeks. First and foremost, the wedding was successful in the sense that two people got married. And my grandparents made it, and I don't think anybody got sick. So we're still we're still finger crossing for that last one. There's like probably a 2-week incubation period before I can really say that we're out in the clear. But I think that the biggest fears have been alleviated, and everything went off A-OK. Now, I took 2 weeks off. I'm still like technically not working this week for at least today, tomorrow, because I knew that I was gonna need some time to like unwind and unplug after the vacation, which is something that I've never done before. Normally I go on a trip and I come back and I work the next day because capitalism. Yeah. I am now never not taking extra time after a break, because I knew that like this was going to be like, it's a fun trip. We went to Hawaii. Like, it's really hard to complain about it at all. But holy fuck, like the traveling with anybody who was not my immediate family, my parents, my sister, is so the worst. I am so happy. So I took my friend Alex to the wedding, and her and I got our own condo, which had a kitchen in it, because the apartments that the resort that my parents were staying at and the whole wedding party was staying at didn't have a kitchen. So I thought, hey, this is going to be a good idea. Hawaii's expensive. Let me buy eggs, cook breakfast, do all that stuff. what I didn't realize what was going to happen by being the person who got the kitchen is that everybody just like came through to my apartment every morning for like a buffet style breakfast because they're like, "Hey, Joe's got a kitchen. We'll just bring eggs and tortillas and magically burritos will appear." So every day I started off my day as head chef Joey, and we proceeded to get going, and I think that I had a good time. I tried a different vacation strategy. Normally, when I go on trips, I also I'm someone who plans a lot of stuff, and I kind of go into a trip with like a daily agenda, right? And I intentionally made that not the case this time, and I found out that I find it very hard to do nothing.
That does not surprise me. That I was wondering if you would find that stressful, not having a plan every day.
Yeah, so probably about 48 hours in, I found like a medium ground where I sat down with a laptop for a couple hours and did some research and booked some stuff for the rest of the week. But I found out that the idea of zero planning and staying at a resort, also not good. So this was like a really good growth opportunity for me to learn about what I do and don't like on vacations. For anybody who is specific to Hawaii or knows about it, I was on the island of Kauai the whole time, which is interesting because that island is one of the smaller ones and less metropolitan than the big one or Maui, which means that everything closes really early. So we had to like shift our schedule. There's like strict liquor and noise requirements for 9 p.m. So basically at 9, everything is closed. So I made a pretty successful shift in my schedule to like be a morning person for a week. The light little bit of jet lag helped. We did a lot of hiking. We did a lot of kayaking, which big fan of paddling. Big paddling fan. Probably the one mistake that we had all week is that we booked my whole family the day of the wedding rehearsal, the morning of the wedding rehearsal. We booked a 6 a.m. ocean catamaran tour. And a little fun fact about my family is that all of us get motion sickness. This is something that like you learn to deal with. There's medicine for it. Generally, you kind of know your limits, right? But my mom, my sister, myself, my new brother-in-law, we all get motion sick. So what I did is I actually got a prescription for one of those little patches you see people wear like on cruises or something. One of those transdermal motion sickness patches. And
do those work?
I wore that, and everybody else took Dramamine. An hour into the boat ride, there was 40 people on the catamaran. About 20 of them were from the wedding party, and about 6 of those 20 people from the wedding party, including 5 of my family members, were vomiting off the boat. Now, I didn't vomit, and I am so excited about that because that means that the patch worked. It was actually very interesting. It's the first time that I've ever taken one of those. It's called scopamine. That's the name of the drug. It's the first time I ever took one of those, and I still felt uneasy and like my stomach was upset, but I think it just blocked all of my brain signals that wanted me to vomit. So like I never once felt nauseous, but I knew that I didn't quite feel well. Like internally I was still a little bit of a mess, but my brain didn't think that I had to vomit, so I didn't. And that was great because we took the boat out. We went halfway around the island. We did some sightseeing. Kauai is interesting because the west side of the island is so rocky and cliff and just like sheer cliff faces that there actually isn't a road all the way around the island. It's just like a 12 to 7 on the clock situation. There's no road from 7 back to 12. And it was really cool to be able to like see that part from the water, and really fun to just watch everybody get really sick, and by fun I mean really sad. we went all the way up to the top and then came back down, and then the second it was supposed to be like a boat tour and then like a snorkel lunch on the ocean thing. And my sister basically bribed the captain to be like, hey, how do I get off this boat? I know that we're going to go snorkeling. I know that like we're driving past the dock again that we got on this boat at. I will pay you whatever. What do I need to do to get off this boat? So so luckily, the people who were taking the trip with were incredibly kind. And I think they were only so kind because one, it didn't take long, and two, my sister was literally getting married. To let the boat stop and have about 7-8 people get off before we actually went snorkeling and hitting in the ocean. So I stayed on the boat by myself while everybody else was like sick in the parking lot, and I had a good time. I saw some turtles, hung out with some dolphins for a little bit. I'm generally.
That sounds very magical.
Do you know how to snorkel?
I actually tried snorkeling once in California. What's that island off of LA that people always go to?
Catalina.
Yeah. So I tried to go snorkeling there, but I have a really, really, really bad reaction to cold water. I hyperventilate in cold water no matter what. And like I have taken, like I went through when I was in Germany, we didn't have air conditioning and I was the very top floor, and heat rises in apartment buildings and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the air is very stale in Germany. There's not much wind in Berlin. So there was no way to like circulate air. So I would take cold showers, and I actually took like the entire summer just doing multiple cold showers every single day to see if I could train my body out of hyperventilating, and I couldn't. It is just something innate in me just does not want to. I don't do cold water very well. I literally cannot stop hyperventilating to save my life. So yeah, snorkeling did not go well with me.
So this is a fun thing that we have in common. I actually I'm a child. I am a giant baby when it comes to water that is like anything less than lukewarm. Cold water, I can't do it. I get in there and like I feel not hyperventilating, but like mild panicky. And then even I don't like, anything less than warm. So luckily, when the sun was out, some of the ocean water was warm, but it was still kind of cold. Florida, much better for ocean water. Yeah. But I cannot. I feel so dumb that I can't snorkel.
Same.
I feel like, stupid.
The funny thing is that like a lot of the snorkeling technique is very similar to gas mask technique. Mm-hmm. It's like the same things in theory. So like I was very familiar with like all the things he was talking about and everything, and I was like, oh, this will be easy. But I remember I spent like 45 minutes in the water just trying to get my body to like let go of it. like it's not even, I'm not necessarily panicky or anything. It's just like my body just refuses to stop hyperventilating from cold water. I would get to a space where I'd be okay, and then another wave would hit me, and my body would just start fucking freaking out. So yeah, I felt pretty embarrassed, I guess. I don't know. It was just like I was more mad. I was just like, why can't I do this? This sucks.
Yeah, it's like I'm a strong, fully functioning boy. Surely I can put my face down in the water and breathe through a tube. But apparently that's not on my things I'm good at list. Like it's actually pretty. Yeah. It's on the things I'm bad at list for some reason. So I guess maybe I'll try scuba next, and that one will go better.
But I want to try again in warm water, like Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii, maybe Florida, anywhere where it's warm. Yeah. It's the actual act of like using the mask and the tube and like positioning yourself and breathing that I felt like I was worse at, more so than the water. But I did a little bit of instead of snorkeling, just breath holdy, looking underwater and being like, oh wow, look, coral, that's cool, I guess. Went on some cool hikes, found some waterfalls. The wedding itself went pretty well. I cried way more than I was expecting to. I think I was expecting myself to like during because I was in the I was in the ceremony, and I was expecting to like be a tad misty eyed, like, oh wow, look, my sister's getting married, that's cool. But I was just like the entire ceremony like fighting back tears and crying and I can't even pin what emotion I was feeling. I feel like when people they're talking about crying, it's normally like, oh, like I am sad or I am so incredibly happy. Um
Hmm.
and like it felt like it was neither of those.
Are you a sympathetic crier?
um
Was there like other people
no.
crying? I'm a
Not
huge sympathetic crier. Let me just put that out there. I cry on a fucking dime if somebody else is crying. I am very, very like that.
I did see my dad. So all the bridesmaids were getting ready in my sister's hotel room during the day, and I walked in there with my dad because we were part of the last people to go take like the trolley over to the actual wedding venue because it wasn't at the hotel we were staying at, and watching my dad walk in and see my sister, his daughter, for the first time in her wedding dress, like he lost his shit. And I think that I'm definitely a sympathetic crier for my dad because it's so shocking or like abnormal or so few. Like I can count on
Yeah,
one hand the
guys and
amount of times.
their dad, seeing their dad cry is usually a weird feeling for most guys, I would say, because most guys have dads that very rarely cry.
I think I can count on
So
like literally one hand the amount of times I've seen my dad cry, and like most of them involve someone dying. Um,
same, yeah.
so or like a dog dying. So I was standing up there during the wedding ceremony. It was really nice. We were literally right against the ocean. There was about 30 people there. I was crying, but I also couldn't hear any of the ceremony because the way that the speakers were set up and where I was standing, there just wasn't enough volume. And then I was high tide, so all I was hearing was the waves crashing and just going like, well, I guess they're doing wedding stuff. I think they're saying vows or something. And I'm just like standing there like rocking back and forth, like trying to keep some mild act of composure and being like, whew, everything's great. It was weird. The venue was at the venue was basically at a restaurant, like a beachfront restaurant, right? And it's not like they closed the restaurant down for the wedding. So what they did is like people had reservations out on the patio, and I don't know if they expected that like a wedding was gonna be happening because we were just. There was like loud music and dancing while these people are trying to have their nice dinner by the beach. I feel like we're just sitting there, like playing fucking music and shit. I hope that they enjoyed it. But yeah, we had the wedding was successful. Anything to complain about feels petty. Lot of family drama. Lot of family drama. A lot of people just generally like not being able to communicate and being unhappy with each other. So I'm really glad that I got to, not have to stay with any of them. That was nice. I think that I just continue to get more and more stressed out anytime that I have to go to family events, which is probably something that I need to fix in the future. But
Yeah, you fix it by going to less of them.
yeah,
Easy.
you've given me this advice, and I'm really starting to consider that more seriously at this point.
Yeah.
This one was a hard one to avoid. I played. I got my new Nintendo Switch. Which was great for the trip. I played all of Metroid Dread, which was awesome. I played all of No More Heroes 3, which was less awesome, but whatever. And I played about half of Catherine Full Body, so like I gotta finish that up.
Isn't that the weird anime one?
Mhm. That's the one by Atlas and the people who like did Persona, and it's like more naughty, I guess.
Whoa, did you like it? Because I remember Ellie bought it and was playing it in front of me at some point in time, and I was just like, what the fuck is this fucking acid trip? This fucking erotic fan fiction acid trip that is currently happening.
I bought it with the intent of playing it with my friend Alex, who I was staying with, so her and I would like laugh at it together. I think it's an enjoyable experience with someone else if you're willing to lead into the absurdity of it. Yeah. What? Anything else fun happen? They had an old CD player in the condo I was renting, and the radio tuner didn't work. And there was no auxiliary to it, but they did have one CD in the entire condo, and it was Nelly.
Okay.
It was Nelly's greatest hits. So,
Oh, damn. About to make some sweet loving there.
so that was a lot of fun. I crashed the expensive hotel's pool that was like down the beach a bunch of times because they just weren't checking anybody's IDs, and they had like a lazy river and a slide and a bunch of hot tubs. So that was cool. I basically stayed at the Hyatt even though I didn't pay for it. Thank you, Hilton Marriott. And yeah, everything went probably slightly better than expected. But now I am back home and know that my to-do list is very long, and not just my work to-do list. Like, I feel like there's a bunch of stuff that I need to cross out and finish before I get back into like a working mode, and I'm nervous come next week that I'm not going to be done with everything that I need to do.
I have questions.
Okay, question
time. Was anybody from the bachelor party besides the groom there in Hawaii?
All but one person.
All but one person? Did you have any more fun interactions with them?
I heard an additional racial slur the day of the wedding.
Oh, that's just add another one to the bingo card, baby.
Yeah, that happened. All things like, I did not have to interact with them much, if at all. There's one out of the group of people who I think was like decent. But everyone else who I like really just wasn't fond of. We were together for, a collective maybe 5 hours, 6 hours, including the wedding, over the whole week. So not the worst thing in the world. There was 30 people at the wedding. A lot of them were family, and a lot of it was pretty segregated. People were like trying to do their own stuff in Hawaii. So luckily I avoided that direct stressor.
Very good. Very good. Second question. Did you dye your... Okay, so I noticed from the picture in Hawaii that your hair was that way. But I'm assuming you dyed it before you went to Hawaii, because I don't remember it being like this the last time we did the podcast.
I don't remember if we did the podcast in daytime or not, but yeah, this is what it's been like. I have half of the top of my head dyed again.
Yes, why?
Because my sister cut my hair and she said, "Do you want rose gold?" And I said, "If you think it'll look good." And then she did it, and some of the wedding pictures look pretty good. So that's why.
But why only half is more my question.
Oh, because I think doing the whole top is like I to be different.
It's too much. Okay.
The whole top is too much, right? Then it's just like you have like a dyed faux hawk. But to do one side of a faux hawk, where like I can be like two-faced, I can look normal from one side, and then I can be like cool hip Joey from the other.
That was exactly what I was gonna lead to. I was like, is this a two-faced thing? Was this for like a content piece? Because it was just so specific. Like all I could think about was Two-Face the entire time.
No, this isn't the first time I've done my hair like this. I probably pre pandemic and even pre-podcast had my hair like kind of close to this for a little bit. I need to mix it up. Cutting my hair short alleviated some of the "oh no, I'm going bald" stress that I was having, because it's much less obvious, because it just kind of falls all over itself when it's the right length. So that's good. I'm doing less like constant looking at my hairline. But yeah, it's still noticeable, which I'm not super happy about.
Well, I can't notice at all. And I think you look good in short hair, so.
Boom.
I did actually like you with long hair as well. At some point in time, it grew on me.
once it got past the medium point, I was like content with it, but it's just such a pain in the ass. One of my favorite things, and when I get a modicum of time to do this, I'm gonna go through all the podcast episodes and take a screenshot to like make a flip book, because it like basically we have for basically every week of hair growth for 2 years.
That is true. That is true. We've actually been doing this for quite some time. Though the scenery will change, so that's going to be kind of a wonky flip book in that regard.
It'll be fun. But yeah, I think that's. I'm trying to. Did anything else interesting even remotely happen? Like not really, which is probably for the best that I don't have horror stories or even super funny stories to tell. I immediately, like, after the wedding and coming back home, threw out a lot of the good eating habits that I was obtaining over the last month and a half. And there's been probably about a week of, I don't want to call it binging, but that's probably the most apt word. So I what I've done is I have made myself a list of like the 7 places that I want to eat before I try and go back to going to the gym 5 days a week. So I'm done with 4 of those 7. So hopefully by Monday I try and kick myself back to some level of normalcy. But until then, I really should not step on a scale. Because some of the wedding pictures look great. Some of the shirtless pictures of me in Hawaii, towards the tail end of the trip, whew, I should probably just delete those, honestly, if I'm
Hey, I mean, it's you made some progress. That's good. It's a start. I made a lot of progress with COVID. I'm not sure if I made this joke last time. I made this joke at least once. I'm not sure if it was on the podcast, but COVID diet can recommend. It works very well. I lost a lot of weight, so I have been putting that weight back on because there's nothing to do but fucking sleep and eat in this fucking hotel room. So,
man,
I've been having a lot of sushi and pizza.
I feel like people to talk and ounce more about COVID. I know that we're bouncing back a tad, but so some follow up to the last podcast. I don't know if you went back and like listened to it or like saw a lot of what people were saying, but I think that there was, I mean, obviously there was a Reddit thread. The podcast kind of broke some news that like you guys got sick, which a lot of people I think were being pretty nice in. But I think also just on Twitter and YouTube and most other places, there are people who were like, doing their best to alleviate some of your sad boyism.
Thank you to everyone who sent me messages. I will say I took a shot at the community, I think, last podcast. And when I say that, I'm talking about the general Dota 2 community. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about you guys, or I'm not talking about my personal stream community and stuff like that, because that's more, it's a smaller, more curated list, right? So I do very much appreciate all you guys who have been sending me messages. I haven't responded to every single message, but I always read every message that is ever sent to me. I don't always respond because that sometimes I just don't have the emotional capacity to respond to every message, but I do try and respond when I can, and I do make sure to read every message that is sent. So thank you, everybody, for sending me so many get well and stuff like that. I think I mentioned this last time, but the talent especially, like, I feel like everybody checked in on me in some way or another, and everybody was very, very sweet. So yeah, that was very, very nice. And but yeah, I still don't like the general community, and we could start steering into some Dota stuff because there's been a lot of shit that went on this week. Oh my god, Joey, did you see some of this?
I was mostly unplugged from what was going on. I knew broad strokes what was happening because, I wasn't completely away from my phone, and there were people who were like messaging me questions and stuff like that. But big picture, I would say that in the last decade of Dota, this might be the quote drama that I've been the most unplugged from, and that's for two reasons.
It's good. It's
One,
good.
one of them being just the general circumstance on me like being on vacation and trying really hard to unplug. So like that's a big reason. The second one being like I I know that we need to continue to have this conversation because it's important to continually reinforce with people or like try and help educate new people or you to it's like you gotta keep saying like no bad people go away, right? Like, but I'm a little bit I guess tired. I felt when it was going on just like a little more tired and less fiery than I normally feel, which might have again been a symptom of just being away, because I was reading a lot of the things people were saying and just being more sad than angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You
what
want
we're
to give
talking
us
about,
give us a TLD? Yeah, please. Sorry.
yeah, what we're talking about is sexism in Dota is one topic, and then another topic is the community's dissatisfaction with the talent. There is just a large rift between the Reddit community and the broadcasting talent for a while now. It peaked up at Any Major. It's peaked up now post TI with this whole thing as well. There seems to be a general dissatisfaction. And I will say with any of these sort of things, like whenever I disagree with one thing or another, I always do think there is a kernel of truth. There's always some kernel of truth in any of these sort of things. Sometimes it's really small, sometimes it's really big, but there is always some sort of kernel of truth. So I think there is a good reason that the community is dissatisfied with talent. And I think there's a lot of bullshit reasons, but I do think there are some good reasons there. And this kind of merged together in a weird way. Basically, what happened was the community was pretty dissatisfied with some of the people and their job at TI. I mentioned last TI that there was like I saw some upvoted comments that were unhappy with me and Kyle. Like as just a very, very small example. There's a lot of people unhappy with Frankie and Sumichu, which I honestly could tell you that was very likely going to be happening anyway, almost no matter what, because they're new people and Dota is a very elitist community. And there's always going to be some people who are like, this person doesn't even play the game. Why are they hosting? Right? Like there's always a disconnect of like a understanding what the roles of a broadcast are. And also just like disrespecting the work that people do put in to prepare for these sort of things. Both Frankie and Sumichu, especially Frankie, played a lot of Dota. I know Frankie played a lot of Dota leading up into the game. I know she did a lot of research. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she did a good job. I actually cannot speak to this thoroughly one way or another because, like I said last time, I did not watch the broadcast. So you can do all the research in the world. You can play a whole bunch of Dota. It does not necessarily mean that you're going to be a good or bad host. And the community was dissatisfied, mostly with Frankie and Sumichu. I saw a little bit more Frankie hate, which honestly, I just be blatantly honest. Like it surprised me because I actually think Frankie's really good at every broadcast that I've seen her from. I think she's really good. I think she's especially good with crowd work. I think she is like incredibly top tier with crowd work, which unfortunately there was no crowd for this TI. But I do think she's very good. So I was a bit surprised to see a lot of people dunking on her. Now, this got rolled into sexism in Dota because Moxie put out a tweet basically saying like, hey, Dota community, she felt like there was sexist tones to some of the gatekeeping that the Dota 2 community does with talent and stuff like that. And I'm doing some pretty broad strokes here. Um, and I will just say some very basic things right now. I think sexism is a thing in Dota. You talk to any female player, not any, but you talk to a lot of female players, a lot of people who are females and play Dota. They'll tell you that it's a sexist hellhole every game that they get into. I will also say that you can not like a talent or a host. You can not like the job they do, and not be sexist. That it is not sexist to not like somebody's job, right? Like again, people didn't seem to like me and Kyle as an example. People, may not like Moxie as a caster or Shiva as a host or something, and that may be independent of them being sexist. Like those two are not necessarily correlated. So both things are true there, right? Sexism is a problem in Dota, but you can also have a problem with their hosting without it being a sexist thing.
I'd also like
those...
to jump in there real quick and say that
Yeah.
also to add a third one is that like I from what it seems like is that there's been a lot of tying sexism to gatekeeping, and they are two different things.
Yes.
But the Venn diagram has a large overlap in the middle for a lot of people, which is why I think maybe some of the messaging or communication might have like made people mad because they go like, well, I'm not sexist, but you're gatekeeping, or vice versa, right? There is like a weird Venn diagram going on there of shittiness.
Yeah, you can be an elitist asshole and gate people out of like, oh, they can't play my game. I played 10,000 hours of my game. They're not a real fan or whatever. And you can also be sexist, but there is this big area where people are like, does she even play the game? And maybe in some situations that's like a valid, like it's kind of shitty, but it's like it could be a valid, like, does this person even play the game that they're talking about? Like that's potentially valid for sure. But it's usually when somebody says it that way, it's like, does she even play the game? You're probably not. You probably don't have the best intentions. So yeah. So so there were people who are unhappy with the work of certain people, and Moxie puts out this tweet. A large part of the community, and I think a large part of this just comes from the disconnect between the talent and the community itself, which is a shame because talent is there for the community and the community sustains talent. Like it's a mutual beneficial relationship between the two, or it should be, and it's gotten really toxic lately. But so Moxie puts out this tweet, and a lot of the community lashed back very, very harshly, basically saying like this isn't a sexism issue, which I think is a little bit of a shame. I think it doesn't necessarily take things in good faith, where I don't think people were giving Moxie the benefit of the doubt. Like, first of all, she was coming to the defense of somebody else other than herself. So like you can already tell she had at least some admirable intentions. She did something that was, I would say, very brave in putting herself out there when she wasn't a target and making herself a target. So she had good intentions and stuff like that. And obviously she has experienced sexism, and obviously she probably sees some sexist things that are being said about Sumichu and about Frankie. And those are there, like 100% those are there. But the community lashed out at basically being like, they felt like you're calling us all sexist when we have valid criticism. And, I think that language is like pretty important in this situation, because I saw a lot of it where it's like, and I'm guilty of it myself, where I will oftentimes refer to Reddit as a whole and just be like, fuck, like Reddit is super like toxic and this way and that way. And obviously I don't really mean every single person, but I do mean that like as a community, I see things upvoted, and so it creates a trend, right? Obviously, there are people who will push back against like something that I disagree with, just like, I would. But what I see is more people hitting the upvote button than more people hitting the downvote button. So I refer to Reddit that way, and the community does it too, where they refer to talent. Like I've seen so many comments about like the talent this, the talent that, and you're talking about like just a TI that's like 30 plus individuals, who all have probably very different ideas. Many who did not comment one way or another at all on this entire situation. And I just see a bunch of people saying the talent this, the talent that. So it goes both ways, right? Moxie, talked about the community in a certain way, and the community didn't like that. The community talks about talent in a certain way, and like me sitting on the sidelines, I didn't necessarily like that. So I think it's a combination of like people wanting to deny that sexism is a problem in Dota, like language being a problem, community having legitimate complaints about talent performance or the show or whatever. I will just personally say that I don't think Sumitra and Frankie were really set up for success for this TI.
I would even throw Avo in there too.
Oh yeah, Alva was definitely not set up for success. I think a lot of yeah, you just kind of like you are put into a situation and you do what you need to do. You just kind of like roll with the munches because the camera's live and you don't have time to like complain or talk about like why your job is not to explain to the audience why your job is bad, why you're doing a bad job at your job right now. Your job is just to perform and make it the best you can. So I would say that I don't necessarily think that those two were set up for success. And I think the community is also I think they're kind of wrong, but they're also kind of right. And what I saw a lot of people saying was that, like, if you want to host TI, you should probably host something before that. I don't think that should be true. I think you hired the best talent for the job, period. But that being said, part of doing the best job for the show is getting the community to acclimate to you. It may not be fair that people are going to gatekeep and be like, do you even play this game? Who is this person? Do they know anything about Dota? They'll tear apart every little thing that you say. Like Frankie asked what a Midas was, and the community wanted to fucking burn her at the stake. There's some people of the community that want to burn her at the stake for asking what a Midas was. She knows what a Midas is, but she's trying to present TI to a lot of people who are watching Dota maybe for the first time. This is like TI is our big broadcast where the Dota gets advertised to a bunch of people who are not in Dota. It's a very insular community until TI comes around because it's such a big spectacle that all kinds of esports fans and even just not even esports fans, just regular people will watch and check out what TI is because there's so much hype and spectacle around it.
I struggle if I even want to say this because I feel like the same tone that some people on Reddit or some people I'm from talent or were having umbrage with in the first place. But like from what I watched of TI, I think that I was disappointed personally in Frankie's performance based on other stuff that I've seen her host. And I don't know if that's because there's no audience. I don't know if it's because it's Dota. I don't know if it's because of her personal situation and she has like a baby inside of her kicking out. I don't know if there was stuff going on behind the scenes. But like personally, I think that and I've worked with Frankie before. We've hired her to do a show for Riot that we produced, right? I think that she is capable of doing better work, and I think that some of the criticism of like not necessarily liking her if it was your first exposure to her is fair. so like I have some empathy for people who are just like, oh hey, like I'm expressing that maybe Frankie wasn't my favorite TI host. Maybe I liked Machine or Day 9 or Wheat or name one of the other people, Chobra, a little bit better.
Rich.
I
Yeah.
Rich. I understand that. I do think that, and I shouldn't say I think, I know that a lot of this comes with gatekeeping overtones, and also um I have the luxury of seeing the Reddit comments that get deleted, and
Yeah.
other people don't see. And I can tell you firsthand just how many people weren't just being gatekeepy, but were being gatekeepy and overtly sexist. And those conversations, those comments, there's a whole bunch of people on Reddit who work very hard, who worked way harder than I did because I was fucking off on a beach to remove those because they're just unacceptable. And sometimes I wonder, like, what if I just made a collage of all these and just like released some kind of dossier of 1,000 deleted comments of people just being vile? Maybe then some people will understand.
Do you know I have that of myself? I have in part of my Google Drive document, I have screenshots of just a bunch of really shitty comments at me. Did I ever tell you that?
No, why do you have those?
It's like I love this. Spite is a very powerful motivator. And it was this. I mostly took this during my time when I was at Join Dota, where there was like people literally calling for me to get fired. Which is like, if you don't understand like what kind of thing you're asking, of like, I moved my whole life to try this job out in Germany, and the people like are literally asking for me to lose my job, my livelihood, my like that shit like really fucking is extreme just because you don't like the way I talk about your favorite video game, so yeah, I have like an entire document. I'm finding it now. I can read you some of it if you want.
But give me a couple. Just pull a few out of the hat.
Some of this is not some of this is not necessarily like vile or anything. So, for me, the biggest problem is the capitalist is that his enthusiasm feels faked, over the top, like a second-hand car salesman enthusiasm. From those from StarCraft 2, Day 9 gave me that feeling too, and it's a shame he does that because when he doesn't, I think he's a decent caster. Totally agree. When Cap was co-casting with Sheever way back, he was way more chilled and analytical. It's like he took on this persona to replicate Toby. Ooh, that's probably the part that got me. Another thing I've grown to despise about his casting is his theory crafting, and it goes on from there.
Man, I would hate to ever be compared to Day 9. What an unsuccessful piece of shit he is.
Oh, here's one. Jesus Christ. Cap. Okay, this actually has, this is old because it has 183 upvotes. So this was highly upvoted. Capitalist is a little bitch. I hope that insert F word slur, gay slur. I hope that reads this little and then C word slur for females.
What?
That had 183 upvotes.
Oh no.
What the fuck?
Oh no.
Yeah, so
those words just get filtered now. You can't say that anymore.
Yeah. So that's how you know that's old shit. But yeah, like I have a thing of that because I read comments like that and I decide that I'm going to succeed in spite of that person. Like that I'm going to succeed and I'm going to be on all of these broadcasts and that person is going to have to watch me. And maybe I'll even get them to like me, which it just makes me, even better. But like if they hate me and have to watch me anyway because there's a bunch of other people who think I'm good at my job, that does drive me. But I don't think that is not healthy. That is not a healthy way to interact with the community, but that
No.
is how I
Nope.
use the community to drive myself. That is not healthy whatsoever, and I don't think people should have to put up with comments like that, especially 183 upvoted comments like that. And part of the problem is, I think, one disconnect from the community is the fact that people understand this by now with the internet, but like negative comments always stick with you. They will always stay with you. So I see a lot of people who say things like, just because there's some shitheads out there doesn't mean like you should invalidate all of the things that we say.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the way that our brain works for whatever reason. Is that like negative, shitty comments will stick with you. One negative comment versus 90 positive comments, you'll remember that negative comment most likely. Just like I have my drive folder. Believe me, all the nice comments just fucking washed off my back and didn't mean anything to me. Actually, they do. They mean a lot to me. But it's the negative comments who will stick with me, right? And so part of that is human psychology, and part of what I think is this is a talent problem. This is not a community problem. This is a talent problem, but it's very natural. It's very human. I was talking to somebody on Reddit about this, and he asked like, why do talent like? He asked me basically, how much do you think talent actually reads of the things people write about them? And I said, when there's a thread or something, and a thread about you, the part of the difference between the talent perspective on what the community says and the community's own perspective on what they say is that when I go to a Reddit thread, I'm going to click and I'm going to, like, if I look at the comments at all, I'll look at like the top 1, 2, maybe 3. I have to be really invested in a thread for me to go past the top 3 most upvoted comments, right? But when it's about yourself, it's very hard to cut it off there. And I don't think necessarily that the community is responsible for that, because there are always going to be shitty people who say shitty things about you. But the way that the human nature works is that if it's about you, you want to know every single thing that people have to say about you. And so if the thread's about you, you will read all the way down, and you will get to the comments, not necessarily even the comments that are like downvoted to oblivion. You have to open those up, like those little fucking mystery boxes of like, oh, what racist or sexist thing is here, like negative 100 downvotes, like what is this? It's not even that. It's the comments that haven't been downvoted, that are new comments, that are just neutral, or the comments that only have 10 upvotes because some other psycho agrees with this person and has gone all the way down until they find an opinion that matches their own and they upvote that. So it can have 10 upvotes, but it'll still hit you really hard. And I'm not saying that like the community is necessarily responsible for that. It is just the way that human nature works, is that you will want to consume all of that. And some people, like Slacks, for example, he's a fucking psychopath, and he reads that stuff and enjoys people tearing him down. I'm is just a spiteful piece of shit, and I read those negative comments and it drives me to succeed in spite of them. But like I think that those are the outliers. Like that's not normal. That's not healthy.
That stuff also stays with you more than it stays with the person writing it, right? Like if you're in a situation where you're reading a thread about you, and regardless of the contents of that, good, bad, neutral, apathetic, otherwise, you're walking away and you're thinking about it in bed or in the shower or the next day. Like it's really hard to kind of process like feedback about yourself. You're internalizing it, for better or for worse, right? Most of the time, when you're just leaving a comment and you're part of the crowd in that scenario, you type the thing, you click the upvote, you click the downvote, you walk away and get on with the rest of your life, and you're not necessarily holding on to that information in the same way, right? So it definitely is a little bit biased towards the person reading it. And I it's I've had stuff written about me that sometimes I feel like want to default into explaining stuff to people too much. Like when
Yeah.
there's Reddit comments either about like myself or mods or other stuff that I'm involved with, my first thought is like, oh, if I could just sit down and have a conversation with this one comment and let them know that what I'm thinking is blah 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 blah, and then you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's a very ineffective strategy for mass communication to respond to people on an individual basis. So instead of you can be super fired up, like Moxie was, and it's more effective to do an ounce of generalizing and blast it out to everybody as opposed to having nuanced conversations with literally thousands of people, right? And when you do mass communication in the form of a twitlonger, like it's really hard to write in any way to where some people don't feel like they're attacked, because while again, and I'll repeat what you said, sexism in Dota is very real and a very big problem, and one that I do think we're inching towards being better at, but holistically are very bad at. And same with gatekeeping. Like you're gonna message people who aren't part of the problem and are going to feel offended and then are going to make more noise. So there's this feedback loop of people feeling like, oh, hey, I'm not that person. And then just making more and more noise. And it feels like, how long, was it like a solid week after this came up where people were still churning in and out about, that initial post? Like it maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's people really held on to that. Which again is a shame, because if you were to talk to Moxie or see some of the other tweets she put out and stuff, like she agrees that you can be critical of female talent and not be sexist. And I'm sure if she could go back and rewrite that twitlonger, I mean, she apologized later for it, which I do think she had some valid points. Like if she literally just added like at the end, like, hey, and those of you guys who like you don't think you're a sexist, like and you just have genuine complaints about the show, like this isn't directed at you, like it's just something like that probably would have diffused like so many angry people. But it's hard to communicate to a broad amount of people from so many different cultures and so many different attitudes and emotions and stuff like that. And I also think that, like, I mean, Moxie's been with us in the Dota community for a while now. Like, I think people probably could have given her again a bit more benefit of the doubt, especially again, I think the fact that what she did was very courageous, that she does have a point. Even if it the community also has a point. I think she also has something valid to say on the subject. And I don't know.
Yeah, you have to think about also that, like, by her doing that in any degree, she is in some way, shape, or form putting her livelihood on the line too, right? Like, she is not in such an untouchable position of privilege or power to where she can just go and blast on people. Like, she is genuinely trying to educate and create change and start conversations and chastise people who deserve to be chastised. And I think that is like noble, holistically good, and we need more of that. And I think that you see that, like, there was an outpouring of support from people of all backgrounds in response to that. Mostly you see a lot of talent, and again, not to generalize them, but you see a lot of people who are like, hey, a lot of people are being shitty, maybe stop being shitty. My core takeaway is so lame from it, but like, I feel like anybody who was offended at the conversation at all, if you either read Moxie's post or you read Reddit comments or you read responses or thesis or what have you, if you took a moment to like and you felt upset or attacked, I just hope that spurs an ounce of introspection, because I don't think anybody who is part of the problem felt attacked by that. I think that only people who were upset by those words were the people who, like, probably the words were about. So
well, I felt upset about reading Reddit comments to Moxie's The reaction to Moxie, I think that got a little extreme, and I think there was some highly upvoted things that were very mean,
Dude.
needlessly. But the community felt insulted, and they lashed back in a way that the only the internet can do. So,
I think
uh,
we're also privileged, right? In the sense, well, I mean, we're privileged for 1,000 reasons, but one of them being that I think a lot of the people who hang out with us here and listen to this and have been with us for a while, I mean, like, I don't want to call them the good guys because that feels like a blanket statement, right? But like,
we're on the right side.
we're the right side of history, motherfucker. No, but I think that naturally people who have continued to hang out with us share more of our personal beliefs than less of them. So I think that we've curated a lot of people who are probably listening to us and going like, yeah, no shit, like, or yeah, people are fucked up. Which is great, and like I don't want to sound preachy to them because I think a lot of them are more or less in alignment with us or with Moxie or with who have you. But if anybody is listening and felt really upset about it, upset about the tweet longer, upset about some of the talent responses to it, I would just ask, like, why were you upset? What precisely
Yeah.
made you feel upset? And if you can kind of like take a second and break that down for yourself, because I hope that you're not upset because of some kind of word that ends in ism.
The I just have a couple more things on this topic. The other thing is, I'm a little hesitant to talk about this, but I want to talk about it not because I want to put it on blast, but Sumichu tweeted out after that a oh a tweet that was not great in my opinion, which is taking down notes, something about like taking down notes of those being silent right now, or something like that. And I think a lot of people see that, including myself, and are like, "What the fuck?" Because I think that goes down a very, very nasty path. There for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest one is everybody has their own personal battles that they're going through, and not every not every fight is their fight. And I get that she probably feels like this is a sexism issue, and there is elements of that, and we should stand up against sexism, but that doesn't necessarily require for everybody to voice their opinion. There's a lot of times where I see controversial things going on, and I don't add my opinion to it, but I will try and like I'll retweet certain people that like I think have valid points, even if I don't necessarily agree with their point wholly. I'll retweet it just because I think some of the things that they have that they say are good, and everything that they're saying about their experience is valid. So I think it's not necessary for everybody to have a voice on this. As a white dude, it's kind of hard to talk about sexism sometimes. I've obviously seen it, but like usually my time is much better served setting other people up. But part of the reason I want to talk about this is that I do sympathize with what leads you to have a tweet like that, because I feel like I can empathize with that because I felt very similar. I am obviously much closer with the talent in Dota than she is, right? I've been
Mm-hmm.
working with them for years, years and years and
Mm-hmm.
years.
Yep.
So many events. I consider most of the people, the talent in Dota, my family, and I think most of them are good people, and try and be good people. And there's very little like backbiting or backstabbing, and I'm very proud of like the community I have, and I'm very protective of them. But like during the Me Too movement, like I was getting like so much hate from the community, and part of me was angry that more people weren't stepping up and saying something. And I think, like looking back on that moment, again, it's one of those things that it's not everybody's fight. And even though I felt like other people were watching me getting like torn down in some way, You know, it's not necessarily their place to get involved, and like they shouldn't have to like say things to try and like help me in my position. That's not necessarily their fight to take, and I shouldn't be um, antagonistic. I shouldn't be resentful is the word actually of them and their silence. Just because, also because like, what if they're just not connected to social media? I know one talent who's like so unhappy with like Reddit and things like that that they just almost never read it. They uninstalled it from their phone and everything, and they just don't. And you'll notice that this person is like very high profile, and they never say anything on Reddit or anything like that. And it's just because they decided that they're a happier person disconnected, and that's very healthy, you know. And like, I think more of us should be that way. Unfortunately, social media is a plague on human society, and it doesn't let us get away. It drags us back in all the time. But
Amen.
you know, so I'm very empathetic of why she put out a tweet like that. I understand the feelings that go into it. Like I felt those same like resentful feelings of like the my fellow talent and being like, why aren't you guys saying something or doing something? So I can empathize. It wasn't a good tweet. It was not a good tweet, but I can understand where it came from.
I I really struggle. Like I know that so, sometimes before the show we write down some notes about things to talk about, right? And for the past couple of hours I've been thinking about like the line of like Sumi's tweet and going, what do I really want to say here? What could I even add here, right? Because I feel very conflicted by it in the sense that I think over the last year I've become much more friendly with Sumi. We have some conversations just for no reason at all. I've hired her to act in a piece that I've done. So we also have like a business relationship. And I would call her a friend. Um,
Hmm.
Initially, and it's hard for me to want to comment on this because I haven't had a conversation with her to be like, what were you thinking about? Because because the part of my brain that really likes PR, public relations, sees that tweet and just goes, "Oh no, red flag! This is a problem here." For reasons that in hindsight are a bit obvious. It feels a little aggressive. Hold on. It is a bit aggressive. It
Very, yeah.
it's a bit grandstandy, and it I don't think it resonates well with the people who were actually part of the problem, and that I think, for better or for worse, is important in terms of converting people to your opinion or letting them share some type of empathy with you. Is that oftentimes, at least in my personal life, I don't find a lot of success when it feels like you're talking down to people, be it for a bunch of reasons. And I think that tweet can very easily be looked at as pious. Or pompous, or or both, or one of those words. I think they're both. I think they're both acceptable. I don't know. I took an SAT once. So like I haven't had the moment to talk to her and be like, I would just love to know, like, do you regret that? Are you happy with it? What were you thinking? Like, are you okay? Also, like, don't forget the human element. But my PR brain was not a fan of it. And I think that, not a fan of it because it's also going to live on as a meme for better or for worse now, which might turn the corner on being funny, but probably isn't great for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like I did not work with Sumi much at all this TI, but I did work with her for the opening eye event, and I enjoyed co-hosting alongside her, and I've enjoyed my interactions with her, and that tweet definitely left a bad taste in my mouth, but I think it's important to give people the benefit of the doubt, and just recognize the fact that they're usually, I feel anyway, they're usually good motivations. whenever these sort of things come up. So I and again, just to reiterate something that I feel like maybe I didn't actually explicitly say,
Mhm.
female talent do get much shittier comments. That's just a fact, guys. That is just the way it is. You guys like it is fair, I think, to say like, oh, it's outliers. Why would you let some sexist shithead like get into your head? I think that's rational and makes sense, but the truth is that female talent always get much more hate than male talent, and that is a thing. And part of that is obviously sexism. Part of that is some of it is not even necessarily like straight up sexism. Some of it is just the fact that this is a male dominated space,
Mhm.
and you always gravitate towards people that are more similar to you, even if it's something as stupid as gender. So I remember talking to Dan about this, about like female comedians and male comedians, and like he talked about like yeah, the fact that like some female comedians like once you do make it big, maybe you have certain advantages, but what you don't see is all the disadvantages of how she had to start, where like they're just more men going to comedy clubs and they will naturally vibe with other men and the humor that they put forward and the jokes that they put forward rather than a female comic. And that's just like the way we're wired for whatever reason. So, I thought that was an interesting take on. I always really value Dan's experience in that regard because he has experience in a talent industry that I think is similar in a lot of ways to ours, but also very different. And I think that's really cool whenever he talks about things like that. So
I think to put a bow on that, and Dan is great. We should do another show with him sometime. To put a little bow on that, and not to get too preachy, is that I think now more than ever, it's important to not just not be sexist, not just not be okay, with women playing your Dota game. You really need to actively be anti-sexist. You need like more people need to find avenues to let others know when you see them being shitty that it's not okay, be it in your pub or on Reddit or on Twitter or not in the Twitch comments because that's actually an incurable cancer, but like everybody, if you believe in what we're saying, if you believe in these people, if you believe in equity and equality, like you need to make more of an effort than just kind of standing idly by. And that's where efforts like Moxie's conversation starter even comes from. Like it
mm-hmm.
comes from a place of not just like personal frustration. It comes from the people need to work against the machine here. People need to stand up for other people. People need to tell others what they're doing is not okay. Don't just be some apathetic bystander, because the idea of like, well, I'm not sexist isn't enough, because if that's the case, we're never actually going to fix any problems, not just in Dota, but in your next favorite online game or in your next Reddit forum or wherever you're going to be. So like if you can just help.
Yeah, and yeah, recognize that these are actual people, not just characters on a screen, and that when a woman says something about sexism, there is something to back it up. She has no doubt experienced sexism in her life, most likely multiple hundreds of times in her life, and particularly in male-dominated spaces, like esports is right now. So, yeah, just take that. There were some good things to come out of it. I think the conversation was very aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't necessarily think that the conversation was bad per se. I do think it's always good that people talk about these sort of things, even if it can get a little bit circle jerky. And then I would say that I think the best thing that came out of this, and simultaneously one of the worst, was Slax's response to this. If you haven't, go check out his video. Be good. That I think it is a lovely response, and I think Slacks is an absolute treasure. He is not a perfect human being, and that is not what he purports himself to be in that video. He's saying that we as a community can do better, and that it would behoove us to not be so gatekeepy and mean. Um, not even necessarily sexist, but just mean. We could be less mean, because we don't need to keep everybody out. We're in a game that is slowly dying. We're not going to reach new peaks in player bases, so we don't need to try and keep people out. They're not coming in the first place. They're not coming to our game. Like we don't need to be so mean and judgmental. He did talk about one thing that I thought was very nice, which was the fact that the report system in Dota probably needs to be harsher. Particularly, there needs to be a way to be able to report racism and sexism, especially, and that there's no reason why there shouldn't be harsher and more and faster punishments for people who say things that show up on, like he mentioned, like word cloud. When you can literally see racial slurs in somebody's word cloud, it's like, okay, but like why is he still able to play like Dota? Like why is that still like his most used word? That's really weird. So I think that was a very valid point and a way forward to help improve our community. And yeah, I honestly felt like I agreed with like almost everything Slack said. One of the things he did say, which was that our community is the best in the world, I very harshly disagree with that, because my view on humanity, I guess, is I'm an optimist. I like to see the good in people, and if our community is the best community in the world, like that's gonna harsh my vibe with humans. But and I think there's no better showing that than the incredibly, what I found, repulsive reaction to Slax's big fan banning thing, where people just took the opportunity to rip him to utter shreds. You guys are like, Slacks deserves criticism. He is a passive aggressive toxic piece of shit. In Dota, there is no doubt. Dota
Mm-hmm.
brings out the worst in so many good people that I see. My it's honestly awful. But when people go beyond directing criticism to him for that and start like actively trying to tear him down, and that gets upvoted, I'm so mad, because you guys just do not seem to understand how good you have it with Slacks. Slacks has done so many great things for Dota. He's one of the few people who has done more for Dota than Dota has done for him. And it makes me so mad when I see people like actively try and tear like everything that he is down, because Slacks is a very in some ways very pure, in that like there is not an on and off switch for him. Like who he is on screen is who he is as a person. There's not that big of a change in that regard. And the person that you see on screen is fun and generous and fucking wacky, and he does anything to make people smile and laugh. And the fact that people will like actively try and like tear him down and call him a piece of shit and saying it's all lies and stuff like that makes me so mad. This man has done so much for the community. I fucking hate the community whenever I see shit like this, because I'm just like, what is wrong with you guys? This man is like a literal gift to you guys. He does so much for all of you, and you still need to bleed him more. You want more out of him. He isn't good enough for you. You need more. And it's fucking awful. And I fucking hate you guys for that. You specifically who do those sort of things and allow that sort of thing to get upvoted and stuff like that. I fucking, oh, it makes me so mad. Slacks is an absolute wonderful person, and but on top of being a wonderful person, like he's done so incredible amount for the Dota community, and he's lying when he tells you that you're the best, because anybody who would tear down one of the best things of their community would actively try and tear it down like that. That's not a great community. It's certainly not the greatest community, that's for sure. I enjoy the Dota community, but it's not the greatest. That's for sure. So, yeah.
I think we're pretty good compared to people who are pretty bad but have a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, there's room for improvement. Just like there's room for improvement in the talent, there's room for improvement in Frankie and Simichu's hosting. They will both very likely tell you that is obviously the case. None of us are perfect. We can all get better at our jobs, and we as a community can also get better, and we as people can get better. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we think, when I say that we can get better, that doesn't mean that I think I'm better than you guys. It doesn't necessarily mean that like I think I'm perfect.
You could also get better. I could
Apparently
also
people
get better.
think that about Slacks. Apparently people thought when Slacks put out a like, hey guys, let's just like try and be better. They were like, this guy thinks he's all up on his high horse. Ah, fuck you.
They'll never learn. Poor. I mean, I should actually go back and watch. Yeah, I should go back and watch what Jake put out, because I saw the runtime of that video and I went, not today.
Yeah. No, it's a great video. Also, I'll add it now that I've got my rant of the week done with. If I could add one more happy note in, Dr. K put out his video on his experience with Dota and like lessons that he's learned with Dota. And I will say that was a delightful video, full of, like most things Dr. K, like I'm not an active watcher of him, but like I have passively consumed content of his, and everything he does seems to be great. So not surprising, but that video is full of nuggets of wisdom and so many things that I think Dota players could learn or recognize or reevaluate about themselves, even if maybe you know some of these things. It's a nice reminder. So I would highly recommend checking out Dr. K's video on his experience at TI, because he obviously gets really introspective and big picture with it. So
was he
really
just was he just with EG for the purpose of TI? Like he wasn't signed with them beyond that?
He had been working with them over the last year. So
okay.
Yeah, so this is a long-standing relationship, and apparently he says that he's worked with other Dota teams before, which I did not know. I know he's done some work in the Dota scene, but I didn't know that he'd actually worked with teams before and stuff like that. So yeah, it's that's apparently a thing he's been doing for a while. So.
Jenkins was plugging him on the broadcast like it was his job too. So I mean,
I briefly met him and talked to him. Again, seems like one of those people that is very much the same on screen as he is off screen. Lovely man. I hope he does do more stuff with Dota in the future, because I would definitely value any interactions I have with him, and I will very likely go out of my way to consume more Dr. K content, just because I think it's nice, it's healthy.
I'll have to go check that out. As I wrap this up, I don't have. I'll take the rec. I'll go watch some Dr. K TI recap. Was that just on Reddit right now, or do I gotta go dig for it? His channel,
yeah,
EG's channel. Like where am I gonna go find it?
His channel. His whole thing, Healthy Gamer GG, I think is what it's called. Yeah, just Google Dr. K, or you could go to the Dota 2 subreddit and probably put in Dr. K, and you'll find there's a Reddit thread talking about having him on broadcast more, and there's a Reddit thread of just the video, so it would probably come up pretty quickly. But yeah, I would highly suggest anybody to check it out. It's long, it's like an hour long, but I sat all the way through it, and I thoroughly enjoyed all of the video that I consumed. So.
I want his 1 hour and 30-minute long video for Therapist Analyzes Squid Game. This is gonna be. This is gonna be a rabbit hole of me watching Dr. K content. I can feel it coming.
Yeah, it's good. It's the kind of content you can consume and listen to a lot of and not feel like a dirty person afterwards, you know? Where you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like you're actually consuming something that might help you in life rather than just be a distraction from the inevitable death that awaits us all.
Oh God, we're all floating on a rock right now through space. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's true.
I'm gonna
True.
go have an existential crisis. So until next week, hopefully that'll be solved, or hopefully I get back on my diet, or hopefully I get back on my diet and you get back to America, and then we can go eat food not approved for my diet together.
Yes. Hopefully I will have made it back to made it back home. Where Ellie is currently waiting. I last week I said that Ellie was gonna stay here, and then I changed my mind about that. I said you need to get the fuck out of this country right now, because
Before you get sick.
Well, yeah, exactly, because there was 17,000 new cases. Let's see, 7-day average of 14,500 new cases. In this country, it's going to hell out here. There has been on an average of 400 deaths every day in the last 7 days. So, yeah, this place is going to fucking hell. So, Ellie's safe and she's home and she's COVID free. And she's waiting for me, and hopefully I will be there next week when we do this podcast. Because if not, Joey, you're going to see a different me. You're going to see a me that is torn down the fucking drapes on the side and shit on the wall over there. And I'm going to be fucking, like, I'm going to be completely bald. My eyebrows, beard, and hair totally gone to shave away the unclean COVID, you know? If I have to be here for another week, I'm going to lose it.
I'm not gonna lie. There's like 10% of me that'll be really interested in that, but the 90% of me just hopes that you make it back home. Get that negative PCR test.
Thank you. I'm trying.